Okay, so welcome to getting started with Polling at McGill. I'm one of your co-hosts for the session we've got this afternoon. I'm Adam Finkelstein. I'm Associate Director of Learning Environments here at Teaching and Learning Services. I'm here with my colleague, Jasmine Parent, one of our crack learning technology experts here that is going to help us move through some really interesting things today, talking about engaging your students with Polling at McGill. And yes, you're going to see polling closed. Don't worry, because the polling hasn't started yet. So don't worry. We're going to get that polling started, but only when we get to a slide that actually is going to have a poll on it. So it's going to say closed until we open it up and ready to go. Jasmine and I are going to be bouncing off between each other here. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. However, we are going to save some time at the end for more of those questions. So we'll do our best to manage some of that in the chat, but if we don't get to that, we will try to return to those as we get to the end of the session here. So our session is going to go to 1:45. We're going to have about 35 minutes of talking and experiencing, and then we're going to have our open questions at the end. Okay. So let's get started here. Our main thing we want to do is we want to start it off with a question. And what we're going to do is open the polling here. And if you followed the instructions that I posted earlier, which are going to be that go to mcgill.ca/polling and join the session, you're going to be able to join in and answer the poll that's here. Now, this is a priority ranking question, which means that you actually have to put them in order, answer 1, 2, and 3 to your top order for your questions. So go ahead and do that. Let's just see how many people we've got on our slide here. Of course, my eyes are starting to go, so I'm just going to make this bigger here. Responses. We still just have a few responses. So everybody get in there and get your responses in now. And we will continue. Starting to climb. I think that's at 15, if I can see it right. Is that right, Jasmine? Or 15? We're getting there?
Actually at 6.
Oh, it's at 6. See, you know, like when it's really small on a screen, it's hard for me to see. So keep going and go ahead and post those, choose those responses there. And once we get up to, we have about 34 people in the session. So once we get up to around 15 or 16, we'll probably cut it and continue. So keep in mind, all you have to do to answer the poll is you go to the website, and I posted it in the chat here. You go to the website, mcgill.ca/polling, click on join a polling session. And then once you've logged in with your email address and you're able to go, you put in the ID McGill polling that you'll see there. If you haven't been able to do that and it's too much to do on the fly and it's too difficult, do not worry. It's okay. You'll just sort of put it on cruise control for the session and watch as we go forward. Again, if we were doing this with our session with our class, you might actually do this at the very beginning of your class and take a good amount of time. Let's say 15, 20 minutes, make sure people can get in, try a poll or two, etc. But since we don't have too much time today, we're going to go with as many as we can. Keep in mind that if you're in the subscription or you're getting other weird messages, you didn't click on the right button, which is join a polling session. You click on join, you put in your the ID McGill polling, and you should be able to get there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to how many do we have right now on our list here?
We have 13.
13. All right, we're going to consider that a start. And as we're going to go and we're going to start some more polling as we get through the session, people can keep trying to get in as well. So let's just close the poll and look at our results. So the top result here in terms of priority ranking is most people open it up and play around until you figure it out. That's kind of an interesting number. And you'll notice it says 680%. We've got percentages on it. Probably doesn't make much sense in this question because you can answer multiple things. What we can do is look at these results and so reflect upon them and say, oh, okay, so most people like to try it out. A couple of people read the manual and some people go and see an expert. That's good for us to know. Okay, so let's keep going. We're going to have a number of options as we go through this session. The first I wanted to mention is all of our session outcomes. So the first outcome that we have here is we want to explore polling and how it can be used to increase student engagement. So we're going to actually do a whole bunch of different questions as we go through this as an example once we start talking about what polling can do. The second is give you an opportunity to participate in those polls as a student. And last is identify the types of questions and feedback and how you can use it to really gather and engage, gather feedback and engage students. And that leads us to the next slide, which is really talking about what our main issues for today and our main benefits of why do we want to consider using polling at McGill. There's a couple of really logistical benefits is that if you've used polling in the past in your physical classroom, it's exactly the same thing as you do in a remote learning scenario. So you basically are using polling in the exact same way. Nothing changes. Everybody's able to log in and use the system as you've done in the past. So if you use it in the past, using it now, no problem, easy to transition. But there are three key benefits if you've never used it before. The first one is really engaging students. It's a way of getting things interactive, engaging, exciting, getting students involved in what you're doing in a session that you might be doing live. Keep in mind, this is a fixed engagement scenario. So we're all logged in together. We're all able to answer questions and be able to use them at a level that's far beyond what we could do with other polling. The second is really using it for active learning. So you can actually intersperse, say, a presentation that you might do with actual opportunities for students to work on a particular question. So here's a question, work on it for a minute on your own, write down the answers, and then put in the answer for everybody to see. So you can actually get students actively engaged in a session as opposed to just listening to you during a particular live session that you might have. And the last is, which is really critical, is that increases that opportunity for feedback. So students in many situations, and in a remote scenario, it's even more difficult, is that students aren't getting a lot of feedback. And one of the nice things that polling allows you to do is ask questions, have students respond, and then get students to see feedback in terms of everybody's response in those questions. And we'll show you a lot of really interesting opportunities of how that can be possible. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over, I think, to Jasmine for our next slides to continue from here. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Thank you, Adam. So let's talk a little bit about using polling to increase engagement in your course. So when we compare polling to or polling at McGill to the Zoom polling feature, we can see that polling at McGill is a little more of a sophisticated polling system. Zoom is limited to using only multiple choice questions, while polling at McGill has a variety of questions in which we're going to explore in a moment. The reporting in Zoom polling is quite basic, which is a simple Excel spreadsheet, while the polling at McGill, you can produce much more sophisticated reporting and analysis, including information on performance and participation. Polling at McGill also integrates with PowerPoint, so it allows you to add questions directly into your presentation so that when you progress through your lecture and your PowerPoint slides, the questions will appear quite seamlessly on the screen. Polling at McGill also has an integration with My Courses where it will pull your class list into the platform so that when your students join the session in your lecture, Polling at McGill will link their accounts to their name that's found in your class list. So this creates an opportunity to actually include a grade for participation in which you can link to your grade book in My Courses. And finally, when you give a poll in Polling at McGill, the poll and the results are captured in the lecture recording. This is not the case for Zoom polling. So when students rewatch a lecture recording, if you did give a Zoom poll, they will not be able to see that in the actual recording. But because for polling at McGill, the questions will be integrated into the PowerPoint. If you're sharing your screen, that will be captured in the recording itself. So it's not to say that polling at McGill is necessarily better than Zoom polling. Zoom polling has its time and its place. It's really great for quick engagement opportunities within a live lecture, but polling at McGill is a really more sophisticated and powerful tool for you to use for different types of engagement and interactive opportunities. So at McGill, we're using the web-based polling system called Turning Point. So when I say polling at McGill or Turning Point, I'm actually talking about the same thing. Polling at McGill is McGill's branding to the Turning Point technologies. So this is the Turning Point interface when you open up the application on your computer once you have it downloaded and installed. We're going to be focusing on using Turning Point to produce polling questions for PowerPoint in particular. So what happens is during a class, students respond to live PowerPoint presentation slides using their personal device. So it could be a smartphone, it could be a tablet or a laptop. With live polling in PowerPoint, the results will show in real time. This is really great for getting instant feedback, checking participants' knowledge, and giving everybody a voice. So even in a large lecture hall or in a large class, it's a way to allow all students to participate in questions that you might be asking them. There's also anywhere polling, you can see here. It's the same idea as PowerPoint, but can be used within different applications. We're going to be just going over the PowerPoint polling, but we will provide you with resources on anywhere polling if you are interested in using it. There are different ways, oh, there we go. There are different ways in which you can use polling in your class to increase active participation, which supports your students' learning. So you can use polling to orient your students, get to know them or orient them to a subject. You can use polling to inform your students or yourself on their learning by giving them knowledge checks throughout the lecture. And you can also use it for interactive purposes, which we're going to be modeling later in this presentation. Finally, you can use it to give students an opportunity for reflection. So perhaps midway through a course or at the end as a wrap-up activity. There are a few things that, sorry, I'm a little off here with my animations in PowerPoint. There are a few things that you can consider when using polling. So the first thing is question type. So Turning Point has a few choices when it comes to question type. You might want to think about if you want to use questions that have predefined choices like multiple choice, priority ranking, or Likert scales. You might want to consider using more open-end, open response type questions where your students actually have to type in their answers, so like a short answer, a long answer, or a word cloud. And finally, you can have interactive questions in which students select a place on an image to respond to a question. You'll also want to consider timing. So when do you want to ask your questions? Here's an example of how to time your polling questions in your course. This is a recommendation of how you might want to structure your content and your polling. So this is the 10-2 strategy, which is where you give 10 minutes of lecturing and then 2 minutes of interaction. So you could ask, you could give 10 minutes of content and then ask a poll question, give another 10 minutes of content, and then ask either another question, or you could perhaps consider actually re-polling the question that you had asked initially to see if the answers changed based on the new information that the students received. There are also different ways in which you can use polling in your lecture. So do you want your questions to be answered individually, or do you want to pair it with an active learning strategy like think, pair, share, for example, where you have your students discuss their responses and then answer a question? You can also choose to display the results during a poll, after a poll, or not at all. And finally, you can choose to set your responses to be anonymous. So this might be interesting if you're asking more sensitive question that students maybe would prefer to answer anonymously. Of course, you can use anonymous, but you can also use identified type questions if you want to track participation and attendance. So we're going to go through the different question types that are available in Polling at McGill and have you participate in answering the questions on your own device. So before I move forward, just again, a quick reminder, if you are unable to log, or if you want to participate in the questions, you'll have to go to mcgill.ca/polling and click join a polling session. Once you logged in with your McGill credentials, you should see this screen here, which is going to ask you the session ID. The session ID we have for today is McGill polling. So you just type that in and you click join session. And then you should have a blank screen that shows up that the questions are going to eventually show up on when I open the polls. So I'm gonna move forward with this. You don't have to participate if you're having trouble. It's not a big deal. At least you'll get an opportunity to kind of audit how the polling works if you can't participate. So the first way you can use polling is to orient your students to the course and get to know them. So this is a really great way to build a sense of community in your remote course. These questions can be used to get a sense of who your students are, what their backgrounds are, what their experiences are. It also allows an opportunity for students to get to know each other. And it's an opportunity to check in with your students and practice building empathy. So there will be students this fall that are going to feel really stressed out during these times. Most of them have never taken an online course before. And especially for first-year students, it's not exactly an ideal way to start university. So using polling for purposes to just build relationships with students, asking them how they're feeling is a really nice way to maybe get them feeling a little more comfortable. So I'm going to ask you in this slide here, what your experience is using polling. So as you can see, as I move on to the polling slide, the polling opens. You can see here it says polling open, and there's a green light. It means go, and I can see the responses coming in. So this is a basic multiple choice question. I'm going to give you a minute or so to respond. There are how many people in the webinar? We have 33, so I'm going to see like when the responses start to slow down, it would be nice to hit about 30, but if we don't, you'll kind of get a sense in your own course how many students are there by looking at the responses. And when they start to kind of level off, you know that that's how many people are participating. So I'll give you a few more seconds. We have 23. Maybe if we can get to 25. 23. All right, I think we've plateaued. So once I just click on the slide, it's going to close the poll, and I can see here that some of you have used polling as a participant. You have a few minutes ago when Adam was presenting, and a significant amount of you have not used it ever. Some very few as an instructor, and some as an instructor and as a student. So we have a lot of people here that don't have any experience with polling. That's perfectly fine. That's why you're here. And some that have as a participant. So in the next slide, I'm going to ask you another question. Are you planning on using polling at McGill in your remote course this fall? So again, I'll give you a few seconds to answer yes, no, or you don't know yet. So I'll at least try to get to 23 again. That seemed to be the magic plateau number. I have 21. 22. 23, there we go. So I'll close this poll. Yes, over 50% of you are planning on using it. Some of you don't know yet, and nobody clicked no, so I guess that's a good sign. Nobody's totally against it. So I want to do something in this slide coming up. This is going to take just a second to load, but in this third slide, I'm going to do what's called a demographic comparison. So with what your experience level is, and if you're planning on using the polling tool or not. So this is something you can do with your students. You might want to ask them a demographic question at the beginning of a lecture, somewhere along the line, and use it to compare to the results in a subsequent question. And you can do this more than once during a lecture. So here, I can see that your experience level, I can see your experience level and compare it to your plans for using polling. So those who have an experience level of using it as an instructor are 100% going to be using it in the fall. You can kind of see the results vary here with I don't know yet. Those who have never used it are 33% to not know, and so on. So you kind of get the idea. Adam, I don't know if you want to jump in. I know you're more of an expert on this type of polling question than I am, but
one of the nice things about this idea of a demographic is that if you have a demographic at the beginning, so it could be something like gender, how you're responding by a gender, or how you're responding via background, and that can change depending on the questions you answer. And what's really nice is that you can do that kind of analysis at a high level in your class as you go. So if you ask, let's say at the beginning, and it doesn't have to be gender or self-identified demographic or anything like that, it could be, are you in TA group 1, 2, and 3? And then you continue and ask questions. And every time you ask a question, you can then cross-cut the responses by the way that they were answered at the beginning. So it allows you basically to do crosstabs really quickly. And it's a really, really great way of engaging and looking at how people are answering depending on which group they're in.
Mm-hmm. And it might seem a little more advanced, of an advanced feature, but it's really not difficult to set up. And I just wanted to give you an idea of what's possible when you're using these polling questions. So on to the next question type. You can use polling to inform your students by checking their understanding in order to provide feedback or perhaps clarify concepts. So you can check students' understanding on what you've taught and provide opportunities for practice, or you can actually use it to get a sense of what students' knowledge is on a topic that you're going to be teaching. So in the next slide here, I have a question. It's a hotspot question, which is an image you can interact with by clicking directly on it. So it's going to show up in your screen, whether you have it on your smartphone, tablet, or laptop. You can actually click directly on the screen to answer the question for the map. So where is the Indian Ocean? Keep in mind that you can change your answers until I close the poll. But I can see some responses coming in at 12. So just click, you don't have to have the correct answer right now, but if you want to click where the Indian Ocean is, just at least interact with the map. So 20. A few more seconds. All right, so I'm going to close the poll. And we can see here where people responded. So the green little pinpoints are going to be the people who responded within the correct area of the map that I indicated to be correct. So sometimes it's not always perfect, since you can only really indicate with a square. This person had a red dot, but they're pretty close. So this is basically what it looks like. Once I close the poll, I get this visual where everybody clicked and can see who's clicked in the right spot and who hasn't. This might be an interesting type of question for a course like an anatomy course, for example. So if you want to ask students like where certain bones or organs are in the body, you can use this by just uploading an image and indicating which section of the image is the correct answer that goes with your question. So you can also design questions that promote peer-to-peer interaction and use them as a type of springboard for interactivity. So for example, I'm going to ask you a question here. What is the tallest point on Earth? I'm going to give you a few seconds to respond before we move on to the actual peer-to-peer active learning strategy. So off the top of your head, which one do you think is the tallest point? 1920. '23. Perfect. So 58% of you said Mount Everest. A few of you indicated the other mountains. That's great. In the next part of this activity, we're going to do a think, pair, share. So in a normal class, you could have students answer the question, or I could have you answer the question as I did, and then break you up into groups, into breakout rooms on Zoom. And then a few moments later, after discussion, you could bring the students back in. I could bring you back in and ask the question again. But now, since we don't have a ton of time in the webinar, I'm going to ask you to actually reflect on the question in the chat instead. So with that, I'll ask you to think about what it means to be the tallest point on Earth. Is it the tallest point from sea level, or the tallest point below sea level, maybe from the Earth's center? So before I re-poll the question, I just want you to maybe post your rationale on why you answered it the way that you did the first time. So I'm going to open the chat here and take a look at your responses. So most of you picked Mount Everest. Why did you choose Mount Everest? When talking about the tallest point, we usually refer with respect to sea level. True, above or below sea level. Yeah, so a lot of you are talking about from sea level up. That's good, that's totally fine. Yeah, so most of you seem to be understanding it within the same way. So I'm just gonna re-poll the question. Your responses may not have changed, but we'll just do this really quickly. After having some discussion with your peers, what do you think is the tallest point on Earth? I'm gonna have to speed up a little bit here because our time is passing quite quickly, but we'll get to at least 20 responses. There we go. Polling close, come on. Oops. Oh, for some reason that did not display my responses. Okay. So this might be a little bit of a glitch here, but the responses should be displaying. Let's say they did, let's say your responses changed slightly. In the third slide here, we're gonna do a comparison of two questions. I'm having a little bit of difficulties. There we go. Okay, so here is a comparison slide of the two questions that I had answered. So you can see that the results did actually change in the second slide. So actually more people ended up choosing Mount Everest the second time around. Some more of you chose Mount Kilimanjaro the first time around than the second, and so on. So you kind of get the gist. There's no correct answer. I don't have a correct answer for you right now anyways, because it depends on what starting point you're looking at in terms of the mountain. And somewhere along the lines, all of these mountains can be considered the highest point depending on how you're measuring the highest point. So the next and final types of questions we're gonna go over are going to be to get your students to reflect on their learning and provide feedback on your course or your teaching. So this is a nice way to get your students' perspective on a course, how they might be feeling about their learning, and reflect on their understanding of the content. So for example, we're going to do a very quick 1 minute to 30-second to 1 minute reflection here. I want you to identify one benefit you see when using polling in your course. So this type of question is called a word cloud, which when you see the results, you're going to see the most commonly answered words. They're going to make a sort of collage with those most commonly answered words appearing bigger than the others. So I'm going to give you a second. You can write in just even one word. It doesn't have to be a full sentence. And once I close the poll, you'll see the responses come up in a word cloud configuration. So we'll get to 20 if we can. Okay, we got 18. 18 is good. So when I close the poll, you can see here engagement. Engagement seems to be the most commonly determined benefit for using polling, which is usually the answer, engagement or interaction. So moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about how to get started with Turning Point. So first things first, you must register your account. You can do so at mcgill.ca/polling. We have step-by-step instructions there on how to get started with registering and downloading the software. Once you have it downloaded and installed, and you open Turning Point and your PowerPoint, you're going to see a tab here that says Turning Point, in which you can create your questions. So to create a question in the Turning Point tab, you're just going to click New and select the type of question you're interested in using. You also have this pane over here where you can select different settings for that particular question. So I encourage you to just explore a little bit before creating your questions or your lecture slides. Adam's going to be sharing some resources in the chat in which you can read or watch to just get you started with this. A few things you want to do before the semester starts includes registering your account, as I said, and downloading Turning Point onto your hard drive. Install it and open it with PowerPoint to create your questions. We highly recommend that you practice running a session before you actually run it for the first time in your course. So you can run a session and practice with yourself, actually just using your own mobile device. Or you can have anyone from McGill join your session and answer your polling questions. So if you have a TA, it might be helpful to have them join and answer the questions so that you can just practice testing the system out with an audience. And finally, you'll want to inform your students that you're going to be using polling in your course. So students can go to mcgill.ca/polling where they can register and follow instructions on getting started for students. We also have some sample course outline statements that you can include in your syllabus concerning polling, which we're going to be sharing, and they can also be found at mcgill.ca/polling. Here are some very high-level steps and tips that I want to mention for running a session. So first, you must open Turning Point before opening your PowerPoint. You won't be able to add Turning Point slides if you don't launch your PowerPoint first. Don't launch your PowerPoint through the Turning Point app, sorry. You then must create a session ID, which is going to be unique to your course. So this is how students are going to be able to join your session. You can choose one, as I did at the beginning for this webinar, which was McGill Polling, or you can have Turning Point randomize a session ID for you. You also have the option of displaying your session ID on the screen so students can see it and join. Whenever you're in a Turning Point slide where you have that pane where it says that a poll is live, there is an option there that you can click and your session ID will pop up so that students can see it on the screen when you're running your session. And when you are giving your lecture and arrive at a Turning Point slide, sometimes the poll will open automatically for your students, like it did in my case because I have a PC, but sometimes for a Mac it can be a little bit different and you'll just need to click on this play or start button to open your poll. And the poll has to be open in order for your students to be able to respond to the question. And finally, after your course, if you're interested in the results, you must save your session. When you try to close PowerPoint, it's going to prompt you and ask you if you want to do so, but just something to keep in mind in case by reflex you click no. You don't want to save the session, you will lose the results in that case. So we have a lot more detailed resources on how to get started in the links that we're going to share. I just wanted to give you a very high level overview of what to expect whenever you're running a session. So what can you do with the results? Firstly, you can track participation, which is something you can do, something you can set up in Turning Point. So since you can link your Turning Point to your course in My Courses, you can actually upload your participation points directly to your gradebook in My Courses. Second, the results might be helpful for you to identify problem areas. So you can take a closer look at them after a lecture, perhaps see where students are maybe having some misunderstandings, in which you can then clarify in the next lecture. And finally, as I said previously, you can use it to collect feedback and check in with your students. So you can even insert written response questions that are anonymous and ask your students to write a little bit about how they're feeling generally or in their course. You can use different active learning strategies like the one we did for the 1-minute reflection with the word cloud. If you do a written response type question, the results are not displayed on the screen, but will be saved as a part of your session report. So it's something that you can look at and read your students' responses after the course is, or the class is finished. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Adam, for a conclusion.
Yeah, so you know, this was again a very brief sort of experience that we talked about trying a couple of different questions. Many of you, most of you, were able to get up and started with little to no time in the beginning, keeping in mind that when you do this in the fall with your students, you're going to have a lot of time. They can set it up in advance, they can practice it themselves, so that'll be a little bit less stressful, a little bit less on the moment. And once you get more experience running the software a little bit, you'll get some of the nuances of starting and opening and closing the polls and things like that as well. Anywhere polling, just as a response, is just another thing on top. So you can either use polling with PowerPoint, or you can use anywhere polling, which basically runs alongside your presentation, just like another piece of software. So really, to sum up before we get to some more questions, the benefits of polling are really threefold. I mean, the one is really engagement. You have the opportunity to do icebreakers with your students, getting information about where they're at, where their heads are at before things started, do that whole like introduction of getting people ready to go, getting them excited about material, getting them engaged about questions that you're asking. The second, of course, being that you can use it for active learning strategies within your class. You can use it as knowledge checks to say, hey, I just talked about this idea. Here's a question to see if you understand that. You can focus on misunderstanding points and say, you know, students often get it wrong here, so I'm going to plop a question and really get it to see if I can expose the misunderstanding that they might have. And you can use it as practice. You can use it as opportunity for students to work together as well. If you want to do breakout rooms as a simultaneous think, pair, share, or even just actually ask questions and poll them afterwards. So you might actually ask a question before you start talking about a topic, see where students are, talk about that topic and ask it afterwards and see, well, hey, did your ideas change? Did you actually think differently now that we've talked about this issue a bit as well? So lots of opportunity for active learning and remote learning scenario. And the last is, of course, feedback. Students, of course, can get feedback right away about how their learning is going and whether they've understood concepts, if you're doing a knowledge check, or just so that they're able to be involved and be able to provide that feedback to you during the class time. So all three of those things are really critical and really helpful to you to engage your students with polling and McGill. So if we go to just the last reminders that we've got, of course, this is one of many webinars that we've had. All of these are on our website. All of these have been recorded if they've already happened, or if they're upcoming, you can register for them. There's another polling session tomorrow, actually, that you can register if you want to come back again and try things again. But again, recordings are all available. Resources are all available. All of that's posted online. So what we'd like to do is sort of finish all of this off in the next slide with talking a little bit more about, oh, the next one's Wednesday. Sorry, you're right, Jasmine. Thank you for correcting me there. Is what are the things would you like to know? You know, feel free to post your question in the chat and Jasmine and I could bounce off of it. I'll address one of the few that came up already. Are we going to show you how to set up the link between polling and the gradebook? No. We're not going to show you that live here. There's documentation and a how-to about how to go through that. Those are in the links that I posted and the links on the website. If you do have a problem or a question or concern, we'll be able to address that for you, absolutely. And downloading Turning Point, you can actually, if you go to the setup, when you go to mcgill.ca/polling and go to register, once you log in with your instructor access, it'll actually allow you to download Turning Point from there. So you'll be able to get access. You do not need to be on the McGill network to download it. You just need to sign in with your McGill credentials to be able to get into the polling site itself. And Nicholas asked about Keynote. Keynote, again, if you're using Keynote, you have to use the Anywhere polling, which is basically very, very similar to the one built into PowerPoint. It just runs alongside Keynote. That's all. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind when you're doing that. Obviously, the one inside PowerPoint makes it super easy, and you just saw here, really seamless to move between polling questions and slides and polling questions and slides. It's really designed to make it easy and simple to do. And you can see even the questions that Jasmine showed you where there's comparison questions, etc. All of these are really just adding a slide and go. Make the options and go. Generally, once you get up and running with polling, the most complicated thing is really to install the software. Once you got all that installed, actually using it is relatively easy as you move forward. It does take some practice, and that's why we would suggest you try it out in advance. Any other questions that we can get to here? Maybe Jasmine, you want to take another one? Are there any other questions that people have regarding polling or around any of the things that we talked about how to engage the students with some of those questions today? Maybe, Jasmine, one of the things that we've seen people use polling with a lot is very large classes. So one of the nice things about polling is that you can set up polls and you can run those polls and even actually set up polls on the fly. Polling at McGill does a really good job of setting up those polls, and you can do those quickly with a lot better than you could in, let's say, Zoom or anything else. Again, a lot of people are concerned about that difference between Zoom polling and polling with Turning Point. Polling with Turning Point really is much more sophisticated. Like, it's not even on the same level. It's not in the same category. Polling it with Zoom, you can basically ask one type of multiple choice question. You have to set it up in advance, and you can't change your mind or do anything or do very little with the data. Whereas polling, you've got these before or after questions, demographic comparisons, all these different types at your disposal. So Jenny is asking a question here about max percentage for polling participation grade over a semester. Jasmine, do you want to take that about how you manage the idea of participation over the semester with the gradebook?
What's the question about max?
About percentage for polling. So Jenny, I think, is asking about, how much percentage can you use as a grade for polling, as an example.
Oh, I think the policy at McGill is 10%
Yeah.
for participation. Yeah, there we go. Somebody else answered it. It's 10%. And the way that you can set it up is that you will give your session a threshold, meaning that you'll let Turning Point know how many responses students have to make within your particular class in order to get their participation point for that class. So a lot of people set it to like 50%. I've seen 60, but that's kind of up to you. Just in case they might miss a question, they may have gone to the washroom or something. If they miss a question, they don't get their 1% for that class, and they actually were there. So you set a threshold, and they either get the point or they don't for that course, for that class. And then you can upload your total participation points. So let's say you had 12 classes. It's going to adjust it to the 10%. You can choose to have participation 5%. It depends on what you want, but you can adjust it to that maximum 10% in your grade book, and it will automatically upload a grade item for you for the total participation. You can, I've seen instructors do one by one, like they'll upload a grade for every single course, like their 1 point for the participation, but it makes your grade book look pretty hefty. And if you want something a little more organized and clean, they'll just upload the total participation at the very end of the course. Asynchronous polling. You can use asynchronous polling. So that third option, I forget what it's called. Polling any, is it? No, not polling anywhere. What's the option?
But it's one of those, like, if you're really going to do asynchronous like polling or asynchronous sort of questions, you're much better off just using the tools in my courses. That's really what it would be designed for. And that's really what those tools are built for. So the surveys tool, the quizzes tool inside my courses is really the best design for asynchronous. I mean, polling by nature of the design of the setup is really built for live. And so I would probably not mix up the two. What you can do, of course, is you could sort of like copy all of the questions you might do in a live session and create some kind of an asynchronous poll that you could do afterwards for somebody that missed it. That's also possible if you wanted to do that. But again, I think it's one of the things where, you have to decide what you're going to do fixed in a fixed way. What are you going to do flexible? And so I think that's kind of that live or not at the live time, and make those decisions from there. But I would probably just keep it simple, like use polling if you're going to do it live, and use my courses if you want to do sort of a flexible poll or flexible surveys or flexible quizzes or questions afterwards.
Yeah, even a quiz question. We had kind of talked about that in the content webinar and in the interaction webinar, where you have pieces of content that you intersperse active polling questions, like a quiz question or a self-assessment question in between those content pieces. So it's asynchronous, and students can participate when they can. But yeah, Adam's right. Using polling at McGill, I would kind of just stick to using it for synchronous activities, and then use what we have in my courses for asynchronous.
And it's also a nice way of getting students to get engaged in those fixed sessions if you've got them, because it can be difficult to keep people engaged in a remote kind of format, and getting people to answer questions of any type is a really great way of making sure people are connected. So it's not like they turned you on and then are checking your email in the background and watch the recording later. They really got to get involved and do something. Even if you don't have a percentage grade, if you want to just leave it out, you'd be surprised how many people will still just engage the fact that I can answer a question, so I can hit a button. And that kind of just interaction is enough to get people involved, especially if the questions are really content relevant, if it's really helping practice some of the things you're doing in class. Even if you give them an idea, well, here's a problem, work on it. So you have 5 minutes to work on a problem and then put in your answer. It's getting them to do something during that class time. And then you can get an idea as to, whoa, the way I just explained it, no one got the answer right. I think I may need to go review that again, and let's go over that nuance again, because maybe it wasn't clear. So it gives you a lot of that feedback as well as the students, which is great.
Yeah, actually, this just makes me think of something I want to add quick. Usually when we give this type of session, it's a workshop on campus and we talk about using polling for attendance. But I guess in this type of remote environment, you have to be a little bit careful with that because you're going to have students that might not even be in Montreal and they might not be able to attend the live sessions at the same time. So it's probably not something you would want to use for attendance purposes in this particular context.
Yeah. And it's going to very heavily depend on your particular class and your particular context. In fact, that might be a really good asynchronous, sort of a flexible question to ask in doing a poll in your course, not in Turning Point or doing a survey, where they come into your class in my courses and say, you know, where are you based out of? Like, what time zone? You know, are you going to be attending the classes? Or, you know, things like that, you know, are great to ask as a flexible survey that you might do at the beginning of your class before it starts.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So we're just over our time here. If there are any other questions, please do fire them off in the chat. Otherwise, the recording for this session will be up as soon as it is crunched by the giant robots that crunch all of these recordings. And we'll get it online. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to check that webpage out, the resources. Feel free to email itsupport@mcgill.ca. If you've got any questions, they'll get escalated up. And they'll be able to help troubleshoot if you have an issue installing the software or anything like that. It's a full supported McGill system and will enable you to get started. Great. Any other last words, Jasmine?
No, I think that's it.
All right. Well, then thanks
A
for
fast and furious session, but
yeah, exactly. It's always a fast and furious one where we're doing polling, which is always really fun. So thanks a lot for engaging and this afternoon, and best of luck. And we hope we'll see you at the next sessions.
thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.